Well, first of all, I would like to deeply thank the organization committee and particularly Rina Guzipao for this magnificent event. Let me tell you that at the UN we usually undertake efforts among member states to organize seminars, meetings, high-level events, even conferences, and it's a tireless effort. And many times we dismiss on the way, so we deeply appreciate this wonderful event, and particularly because I think this is a unique opportunity. I think academia is a place where the new thoughts can be grown. Fortunately, the real world of politics and economics and national interest is extremely tough and cold. But I think that citizens have the responsibility and the right to modify, transform it, and the way it transforms structures with new thinking. So I very welcome this opportunity to think open. And let me confess that I had tremendous trouble in trying to figure myself in which capacity I would speak. If the national capacity is Venezuela, capacity of G77, which is a group of 133 countries, or the personal capacity. So the later I said, well, you know, we all of us, when we try to get an idea through, we have 20 ideas playing together. So basically, it's inside of us is the myth of Babel. And also when we undertake efforts to construct even a social construction or international agreement, we all also play with Babel. So I think I'll play with all the roles, and I hope they benefit from it. Particularly what I would like to share with you is my experience as a diplomat in the United Nations in the Economic and Social Council and in the second committee, which is the Financial Committee of the United Nations. Unfortunately, I'm there because of Harvard University, because 11 years ago I did a model of United Nations University, and that made my fate and my decision. I would have to say that in the last 4 years, it has been a timing of extreme challenge because of the financial crisis. Since it started in 2008 and the ways it has evolved, now encompassing also Europe and also with signs of recessions in China and other parts of the world, the debate has been strong within the United Nations. There has been a fundamental action the United Nations undertook, which was the Financial Crisis Conference. It was a United Nations Conference on the Financial Crisis and the Impact on Development. It happened in 2009. And basically I mention it because I've been listening the morning of today about ways of rethinking capitalism, ways of rethinking the relation between corporations, individuals, social responsibility, participation. The question is how those ideas of academia get into action. Basically, I'm a political actor. So one way and one tool obviously is United Nations. We understand the United Nations is an idealistic organization. So even in the world of politics, the UN is very idealistic. But even though it has a unique power to convey messages, to coordinate policies, and to become kind of a prime minister, which can see, particularly in this case, the three pillars, can look over finance, can look over social development, and can look over sustainability. I think this is a very special and unique case. It doesn't happen on the IMF and the World Bank, and it doesn't happen in the World Trade Organization, which, however, a part of the UN system are not specifically deliberative bodies of the General Assembly or the ECO. So particularly, I would like to share the view of the South. And for starting for that, I would start with a quote of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who says, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger, and the other represents opportunity. On itself, the financial crisis, it threatens the basis of social security, of guarantees, of society as we know, threatens labor, threatens the state of welfare. But at the same time, we give an opportunity to rethinking the model and thinking of the reform of the international financial system. Then I would like to quote also Ovalles Santos, and says, "A nation must be embraced and expressed as a tangible sign of human creativity." And creativity because to discover what is not already, we need to walk into the unknown. And the only way to work in the unknown is to have faith, or to believe in art, or to believe in the possibility of the creator national man. So basically, United Nations, according to the Charter, has a mandate to coordinate policy among member states. It's an organization with universal membership, where everyone is included, no matter big or small. And that's a fundamental thing, because in a systemic and very interrelated international financial system, it is not enough the major economies take decisions, because there are always elements on the system that impact the system that, if not coordinated, will create terrible distortions. Also, it's a point of view of the poorest nations in the world, the less developed nations, that however don't have the size of the economy to participate in the policy making, at the same time are the ones who suffer stronger the impacts of the crisis. So then the United Nations, it's definitely the most open and inclusive forum. But if we go into action, because if we say it's an idealistic organization, we could get into the drama or the concern that it might not be able to deliver action. So I have to say that there is a very consistent set of reforms, and I'm very glad that one of my colleagues here in the panel has worked with Joseph Stiglitz, because the UN is very grateful to him as he advised the President of the General Assembly in the 63rd session and constituted a panel of experts for the reform of the international financial system. That very technical document was taken by member states, and 153 countries make it its own position. From that, we negotiate an outcome, and there is actually now on the table policy implementation measures about the reform of the international financial system. As I know that time is short, I would just like to mention some of them. If anyone wants to get more into details, just bring it up later. One would be special drawing rights allocations for low-income countries. Another one would be regular permanent SDR allocations, or SDRs, development finance and climate finance. When we speak about SDRs, the core idea behind it is the issuing of liquidity. Issuing of liquidity that up to now is only a policy option, a policy tool that European Union or the US with the dollar as reserve currency has. So basically no developing country has the option of generating liquidity. Liquidity that freezes resources in central banks and could be transferred into a development account. So that's an important issue. And it's important to mention that actually the United Nations Conference on the Financial Crisis, on a consensus, it issues a recommendation of SDR issuing. And actually that recommendation was taken by the G20 London Summit. And I have to say it has been the most clear and probably the only concrete measure undertaken by G20. So actually consensus, deliberation, inclusion also works, because that's the basis of democracy. Among other important measures would be debt workout mechanism, that actually European Union, in 2009 only the developing countries mentioned it, but after the debt crisis, Europe is undertaking and taking the leadership in this matter. Also international monetary and financial stability, development aid, a development fund in the UN. That obviously it can encompass many initiatives, because at some point the discussions about reform of the international financial system get together with Rio +20 discussions about sustainability. And then we see that we need to combine the three pillars, the finance, the social development pillar, and also sustainability. And one option definitely is to strengthen the ECOSOC and strengthen the interaction with the international financial institutions and with civil society. I would not like to tire you with a long listing of reforms, but let's say that at this moment the United Nations is having a working group for continuing contributing for policy measures. There is under the table the creation of a panel of experts. Maybe one of my colleagues in the panel could definitely join, because they're very wise and experienced. A panel of experts for the reform of the system. We have get to a point where national interest conflicts. And then we need to take measures to reform the system. But let's say this way, each country proposed the policy measure that benefits its national interest. So China makes a kind of policy, United States make a kind of policy, European Union so, the exporting commodity countries make other, and then the problem is that this is disarranged in the whole system. And definitely we need better thinking, we need more innovative thinking, and we need that thinking get to the policymakers, and the UN is a way to do so. So the discussion about the panel of experts, surprisingly, it has been promoted by the countries of the South. 133 countries has reported it. But there has been doubts about major centers, developed countries. This is a kind of a contradiction, and it would be very important that important relevant universities get engaged in it, because I believe that it might be an option for advancing on the reform of the system. Obviously, I'll be in a position to answer more specific questions, but I want to take this opportunity to basically send what I believe is the most important message that the United Nations can deliver. And I think for this I will take the words of the former President of the General Assembly, Father Miguel Descoto, and reads this way. We must arm ourselves with solidarity and cooperation in order to make a qualitative leap forward to a future of peace and well-being. I invoke upon all the conference participants, as well as those responsible for public life and the fate of the planet, the spirit of wisdom and human solidarity, so that the current crisis might become an opportunity capable of favoring greater attention to the dignity of every human being and the promotion of an equal distribution of decisional power and resources, with particular attention to the unfortunately ever-growing number of poor. We still need to recognize that globalized means of production in their industrial veracity have in large measure devastated the earth, and thus have also damaged the common good of earth and humanity. We must urgently seek other paths that are more human and more favorable towards life, the path of justice and solidarity which lead to peace and happiness.